Hello and welcome back or welcome to this channel. We're using a little booklet called Kamatthana as our basis for understanding Buddha's teachings and practice. This channel is devoted exclusively or entirely to the practice and not to the theory. In our last posting, we concluded page 16, and today we're beginning at the top of page 17. We're talking about taking refuge, and let's see if we can have a clearer definition of what that means. I think I've already said it doesn't have anything to do with bowing down to statues or to teachers, burning incense, lighting candles, etc. It's an act of behavior in our day-to-day life. So, first sentence says, taking refuge is the basic principle or example of how one should act and do things. So, that reinforces what I just said. It's a way of life. It's a practice. It's a daily practice. It should involve ultimately every moment, every single mind moment should be a form of taking refuge in Buddha nature, using our meditation practice and our mindfulness practice. The true refuge includes both mindfulness and insight wisdom. So I guess I get ahead of myself. It has just reiterated that mindfulness is essential. I'll be talking about this a lot in these discourses, and I'm going to remind everyone again, mindfulness is not just knowing that we know. It's knowing that whatever we know is not a me, it's not an I, it does not belong to me, it does not constitute myself. So it's an essential two-step process. The correct practice of mindfulness is a two-step process where we know that we know, that's the knower, watching everything the secular mind may be doing, and then disclaiming it, disowning that has anything to do with me. And I'm not going to try to pronounce those Pali words, but they say, you are your own refuge. So again, in Forest Monk tradition, we take refuge in the heart of Buddha nature. It's not taking refuge in a deceased human being whose name was Siddhartha Gautama, or any teaching that he might have taught in his lifetime, or in any great teacher we have great respect for at this time. We have to recognize that all our prayers, all of our efforts are to see the truth about our own mind, the foundation of which is Buddha mind. So that requires that we're constantly attentive. It is the self that is the refuge of the self. So obviously not the self that I call myself, but a self with a capital S. It's so difficult to articulate what this alternate form of consciousness is, one that's radically different from the one we experience using the six sense doors. We can fantasize about it or think about it or imagine it or even read other people's accounts of it. But in fact, it is impossible to imagine what Buddha nature is like, and that this nature constitutes the only truth of our being. So it's better not to waste time or to argue about it or try to understand somebody else's account, because the vocabulary that we have available to us and the meaning of those words don't begin to touch what Buddha nature truly is. Those who practice Dhamma can protect themselves. Real protection is taking refuge in the triple gem, Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. So I think of a Star Wars statement, shields up. So when they felt they were going to be under attack, apparently they had some invisible protection that they could activate around the spacecraft. So nothing is a greater protection to us than our own virtue. And the greater our virtue, the greater protection we have against some really serious evils of the world. Doesn't mean that we don't age, get old, get ill, and die. It doesn't mean that there's never any misfortune in our life. People we may love precede us in death. There may be all kinds of normal mishaps, accidents, but the truly tragic things we tend to be protected from, based on the quality and depth of our virtue. And by virtue, we gain wisdom, and this wisdom guides us in things that we think, say, and the actions we take in this world. And that alone is a kind of protection, helping us to make good, wholesome, healthy, and safe choices. Now, another way to gain this protection and to deepen and strengthen our virtue is called making merit. It's also sometimes translated as boon, B-O-O-N, making boon. And this is a way that we can deepen our virtue and our wisdom. It says there are 3 ways of making merit. And the first one is by being generous, giving. We can give money, we can give our time, we can give our expertise, some ability we have, not that it's extraordinary. Maybe we play a musical instrument, or we're good at math, or we have some other skills in sports or camping or whatever it might be, and perhaps we can volunteer. So it's not about money. Generosity is hardly about money at all. It's about an open heart. It's about wanting to be a blessing to others. It's about not being greedy or attached to the good things in our life, and the feeling that we would like others to be blessed as we have been blessed. The other one, possibly more important, is a virtue. And it just cannot be overestimated how essential, how critical, how foundational virtue is. And we've already talked about the precepts that are the definition of virtue: not to kill, not to steal, not to commit sexual misconduct, not to tell lies or write speech generally, and not to use intoxicants. It's only 5, and many religions have 10 or more. So I think it's doable. Buddha wouldn't teach us anything that isn't doable. And the third form of making merit is developing the mind in meditation. So, as you see, this is a gradation of how to make merit, and the generosity is something we can do in the world. It can involve our time, as I mentioned, or possessions. Virtue is the way we act in the world on every level, and developing our mind in meditation is also an essential. It's just not going to happen any other way. So this next paragraph says, 8 streams of merit. First one, first 3, we're going to recognize. Take refuge in the Buddha, taking refuge in the Dhamma, and taking refuge in the Sangha. And that, again, is a surrendering to the Buddha's teachings, to the Buddha's life example, and to the life example of those individuals who have mastered Buddha's teachings sufficiently to have reached the first level or stage of liberation. By giving up the destruction of life, that's stop killing, thereby giving to immeasurable beings freedom from fear, hostility, oppression, and thereby one will enjoy these same 3 freedoms. I've already mentioned that we have to have a kind of empathy, a kind of compassion, a sense of loving kindness to all living beings, even the ones who bite us, annoy us, frustrate us, or scare us. And as we develop that feeling for them, not some philosophy, oh, I'm not supposed to kill, but I want to kill, well, that's not it. There actually is a possibility to not want to kill them, to recognize they're on an evolutionary path that we're hopeful will lead to them taking rebirth in a situation where they might come in contact with the Buddha's teachings. So we respect that they are the kind of being that they must be for that lifetime, and we can hope and pray for them to have a better opportunity in their next life to make contact with Buddha and the Buddha's teachings. And it says that we will ourselves be blessed with the freedom from fear, hostility, and oppression. So that would be both being oppressed by anybody, a member of our family or the government, police, or society in some way, and to being an oppressor. And certainly wanting to kill is being an oppressor, and it's obviously hostile, and it's almost always based on fear. You hear people say, I'm afraid of spiders, I'm afraid of snakes, I'm afraid of this insect or that insect. So starts with fear. Once we're afraid, we're hostile, and once we're hostile, we have ill will to oppress or kill living beings. Number 5, by giving up stealing, and thereby one will enjoy these same 3 freedoms. So we're talking about the precepts, taking the precepts not verbally, but as a commitment to living and be a living example of those precepts. So by not taking what does not belong to us or what the owner does not wish us to have. Again, it frees us from our own fear, our own hostility, and our own feelings of oppression. Here we go. By giving up number 6, sexual misconduct, with the same benefits as number 4. Well, we certainly know that sexual behaviors can be very oppressive, and we cannot possibly make progress if we're oppressive, or if we have a level of hostility that wants to kill things that we don't like. Number 7, by giving up false speech, with the same benefits as number 4, by giving up intoxicants, with the same benefits of number 4. So taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and then taking refuge in the precepts, which are the foundation of good moral conduct. These 8 lead to happiness, are heavenly, conducive to heaven, to whatever is wished for, loved, and agreeable to one's welfare and happiness. Wow. Let's take a moment to try and define heaven. They are conducive to happiness, leading to happiness, and are heavenly. So it's essential that we understand heaven and hell are not physical locations. Most thoughtful people recognize that heaven isn't in the clouds, and heaven isn't, hell is not somewhere under the earth. They are states of consciousness. So if we want to live in heaven, it says, Christians say, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So we can live on this earth as if we are living in heaven, if we have perfected or are attempting to perfect these 4 precepts, 5 precepts rather, and if we're actively, intentionally making every effort in our meditation and our mindfulness practice to purify the mind. Merit or boon is giving up that which is unwholesome or wrong. Early translations of Buddhism from the 1900s and early 20th century often used vocabulary that we now find obsolete. Words like sin, even words like right and wrong, and the more contemporary translations are often using the word wholesome and unwholesome. And there's a slash mark also meaning right or wrong. But wholesome helps us to have a sense of what it means to be blessed. And it's often a reference to someone's character or some activity that's just good for everyone. So if it has to bless us, and it has to bless others. If we're sacrificing our own sense of well-being, trying to make others happy, that's not wholesome. And if we're selfish and indifferent to others' sense of well-being, that also is not wholesome. So I like the word, I like that concept that a wholesome life is a blessing, and it's an invisible blessing in many cases. Just being a wholesome individual and walking in a grocery store or in a shopping mall or walking down the street or your presence in the place where you work, your vibrations are blessing others, quote, whether they know it or not. And it's not something that we try to do. It's a law of nature. Once we are living in a certain vibrational field, that's where we live. That's where we call home. And that field is that place that we call our refuge. So we can be protected, we can feel secure, we can feel blessed, and we can be a blessing when we practice these 8 streams of merit. Okay, thank you if you've made it to the end. I appreciate it. If you think there's any good that might come from others listening to this, please press like and subscribe, and we'll hope that others, sincere seekers of the Dhamma, might stumble on this channel and be blessed as well. Thank you very much.